What if the biggest barrier to your happiness is your own mind? What if every obstacle you face is less about what happened and more about how you think about it? Can you truly control your life by mastering your thoughts? Welcome to a journey of inner power, clarity, and transformation. If you're ready to stop being controlled by circumstances and start shaping your reality from the inside out, then this video is for you. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more self-improvement, stoic wisdom, and mental mastery. Let's grow together, stronger, calmer, and more focused every day. In the world of Stoicism, there's a profound idea. Your mind doesn't reflect reality, it creates it. This isn't about ignoring facts or pretending things are fine when they're not. It's about understanding that how you see things determines how you feel, act, and grow. Let's explore 9 powerful mental shifts inspired by Stoic philosophy that can reshape your life, starting today. 1. Your mind is a lens, not a mirror. The world unfolds before us, a constant stream of events, interactions, and sensations. It feels immediate, real, tangible. We often operate under the assumption that what we perceive is a direct, accurate reflection of reality, that our mind acts like a perfect mirror, showing us things precisely as they are. However, Stoicism, along with much of modern psychology, challenges this fundamental assumption. It proposes a more nuanced and ultimately more empowering model. Your mind is not a mirror, but a lens. And like any lens, it can be clear, smudged, cracked, or tinted, fundamentally altering the image it produces. You don't see life as it is, you see life as you are. Think about wearing sunglasses. A pair with dark grey lenses makes the world appear dimmer, less vibrant. Rose-tinted glasses literally make everything look rosier, perhaps masking underlying dullness or even danger. Yellow lenses can sharpen contrast on an overcast day, making details pop that were previously obscured. The external world hasn't changed in any of these scenarios. The sunlight, the landscape, the objects remain the same. What changes is the medium through which you are perceiving them. Your mind operates similarly. Your ingrained beliefs, past experiences, current mood, underlying fears, cultural conditioning, and personal biases all act as filters, the tint on your mental lens. Consider 2 people experiencing the exact same event, a sudden, heavy downpour during an outdoor picnic. One person whose lens is perhaps tinted by pessimism or past disappointments immediately sees disaster. Their thoughts might race. This always happens to me. My day is ruined. Everything is soggy, uncomfortable, and miserable. They perceive the rain solely as a problem, an inconvenience that confirms a negative worldview. The other person, perhaps, equipped with a clearer, more adaptable lens, might see it differently. Their thoughts could be, unexpected. Well, let's quickly pack up. Maybe we can find shelter and laugh about this later. Remember that time we got caught in the rain at the beach? They perceive the rain as a neutral event, perhaps even an opportunity for spontaneity or shared experience. The rain itself is just water falling from the sky. Its meaning, its impact, is constructed internally. A cloudy mind, one fogged by unexamined assumptions, anxieties, and negative patterns, consistently projects these qualities onto the world. It sees threats where there might be challenges, insults where there might be neutral feedback, and insurmountable problems where there might be opportunities for growth. This clouded lens doesn't just passively observe, it actively creates a reality filled with obstacles and suffering. If you believe the world is hostile, you will interpret ambiguous actions as hostile. If you believe you are incapable, you will interpret challenges as proof of your inadequacy. Your perception becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, shaped entirely by the state of your internal lens. Stoicism, therefore, places immense importance on the discipline of perception. It's not about denying reality or pretending unpleasant things don't happen. It's about diligently, consciously cleaning that lens. This cleaning process involves several key practices. First, it requires rigorous self-awareness, paying attention to your initial reactions and interpretations. When something happens, don't just accept your first thought or feeling as objective truth. Ask yourself, why am I seeing it this way? What assumptions am I making? Is this interpretation based on facts or on my pre-existing mood or beliefs? Second, cleaning the lens involves actively questioning your assumptions. Many of our deepest beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world operate unconsciously. Stoicism encourages us to bring them into the light. Are my beliefs about success, failure, happiness, or adversity truly my own? Or have I absorbed them uncritically from society, family, or media? Are they serving me, helping me live a virtuous and fulfilling life? Or are they clouding my judgment and causing unnecessary distress? The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a dedicated Stoic, constantly reminded himself to strip events down to their bare facts, removing the layers of judgment and emotional coloring his mind might add. He sought objective representation over subjective interpretation. Third, a crucial part of lens cleaning is filtering out irrational fear. Fear is a powerful tint. It magnifies potential dangers, shrinks perceived capabilities, and paralyzes action. The Stoics recognize that often we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We worry about things that may never happen, or we catastrophize events far beyond their actual impact. By examining our fears rationally, asking, what is the worst that could realistically happen and could I handle it? We can often dissolve their power. We learn to distinguish between genuine threats requiring caution and mental phantoms born of anxiety. This allows us to approach situations with courage and reason, rather than being driven by panic. Ultimately, Stoicism invites us to choose clarity over chaos. Chaos arises when our perceptions are dictated by unchecked emotions, biased assumptions, and irrational fears. Clarity emerges when we cultivate a mind that strives for objective judgment, understands its own biases, and consciously chooses its interpretations. This isn't about achieving a perfectly objective view. As humans, some level of subjective filtering is inevitable. But it is about recognizing that we are not passive victims of our perceptions. We are active participants in constructing our experienced reality. By diligently working to understand and refine the lens through which we view the world, we gain the power to see challenges as lessons, setbacks as opportunities for resilience, and the world not as a source of constant frustration, but as a landscape for practicing wisdom, courage, and inner peace. Cleaning the lens is the first essential step toward living a rational, virtuous, and tranquil life. It is the foundation upon which all other Stoic practices are built. Number 2, victim or owner. You choose. Life, in its magnificent and often bewildering complexity, is inherently unpredictable. It delivers moments of breathtaking joy, profound connection, and unexpected success. It also inevitably throws curveballs. These can range from minor daily annoyances, traffic jams, spilled coffee, misplaced keys, to significant hardships like illness, job loss, betrayal, or the death of a loved one. Stoicism doesn't shy away from this reality. It confronts it head-on. The Stoics understood that external events, particularly the challenging ones, are largely outside the sphere of our direct control. That's a given. What is not fixed, however, and what lies entirely within our power, is how we choose to respond. In the face of adversity, big or small, you stand at a fundamental crossroads. Will you adopt the mindset of a victim, or will you claim the power of an owner? The victim mindset is a pervasive and seductive trap. When faced with difficulty, the victim looks outward for blame. It's the fault of the bad driver, the unfair boss, the flawed economy, the uncaring universe, or simply bad luck. This externalization of responsibility offers a temporary, albeit illusory, comfort. The feeling of being wronged absolves one of the need to act or adapt. The victim narrative is often characterized by helplessness. There's nothing I can do. Resentment. Why does this always happen to me? And passive suffering. The world happens to the victim. They feel tossed about by circumstances, powerless to influence their trajectory. This mindset, while perhaps understandable as an initial reaction, ultimately leads to stagnation, bitterness, and a profound sense of powerlessness. It relinquishes the one thing you truly possess, your agency, your inner locus of control. In stark contrast stands the owner mindset. This perspective, central to Stoic philosophy, begins with accepting the reality articulated by Epictetus. Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power one, our body, property, reputation, office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. The owner doesn't waste precious energy raging against the things they cannot change, the traffic, the illness, the actions of others. Instead, they turn their focus inward to the domain they do command, their choices, their reactions, their judgments, their attitude. Becoming the owner means taking radical responsibility for your inner world, regardless of what the outer world presents. Did someone cut you off in traffic? The event itself is external, uncontrollable. The victim reacts with rage, honking, potentially escalating the situation, carrying that anger into their day. The owner acknowledges the annoyance, due natural pre-emotional propathia, but then chooses their response. They might take a deep breath, recognize the other driver's action says nothing about their own worth or day, perhaps even feel a moment of pity for someone clearly in a rush or driving recklessly, and then refocus on their own safe driving and their original purpose. They own their emotional state, refusing to let an external event dictate it. Did you lose your job? The event is significant, painful, and largely beyond your control once it has happened. The victim might spiral into despair, blaming the company, the economy, or perceived inadequacies, potentially becoming paralyzed by negativity. The owner, while acknowledging the pain and uncertainty, Stoicism is not about suppressing natural feelings, focuses on their response. They own their actions moving forward, updating their resume, networking, assessing their skills, perhaps seeing this as an unexpected opportunity to pivot or learn something new. They own their mindset, choosing resilience over resentment, proactivity over passivity. They understand that while the job loss happened to them, their response belongs entirely to them. This concept of ownership is not about self-blame. It's crucial to distinguish between taking responsibility for your response and blaming yourself for the event. If you are harmed by someone else's actions, owning your response doesn't mean saying the harm was your fault. It means recognizing that while you couldn't control the other person's behavior, you can control how you process the experience, whether you let it define you, and how you choose to heal and move forward. It's about reclaiming your power from the external circumstance and placing it back where it belongs, within your own rational mind, your hegemonicon, ruling faculty. Choosing ownership requires conscious effort and practice. It involves recognizing the dichotomy, constantly asking yourself in any situation, what aspects of this are within my control and what aspects are not? Accepting what cannot be changed. Practicing acceptance, not necessarily approval, of external events as facts, of reality like accepting the weather. Fighting reality is futile and exhausting. Focusing energy, directing your mental and emotional energy exclusively toward your own thoughts, judgments, and actions, the sphere of your control. Reframing, actively looking for the potential for growth, learning, or virtuous action within the challenge. How can I respond with courage, justice, temperance, or wisdom here? Taking action. Engaging proactively with the situation based on your chosen, reasoned response, rather than remaining passive or reactive. This shift from victim to owner is one of the most empowering transformations offered by Stoicism. It doesn't promise a life free from pain or difficulty. The curveballs will still come. But it offers a way to navigate those difficulties with dignity, resilience, and inner freedom. By understanding that you may not control the events unfolding around you, but you always control your attitude, your interpretation, and your subsequent actions, you move from being a passive pawn of fate to the active captain of your own soul. You choose to own your experience, your responses, and ultimately your peace of mind, regardless of the storms life may bring. Number 3. Value is assigned, not inherent. In our relentless pursuit of happiness and fulfillment, we are constantly navigating a world saturated with things that seem to possess inherent value. Money promises security and freedom. High social status suggests importance and respect. The glowing opinions of others feel like validation of our worth. Possessions offer comfort and signal success. We chase these external markers, often dedicating immense amounts of time, energy, and anxiety to acquiring and maintaining them, operating under the implicit assumption that their value is objective, fixed, and universally acknowledged. Stoicism, however, offers a radical counter-perspective. Nothing in life has inherent value until your mind gives it one. The Stoics made a crucial distinction between what is truly good, what is truly bad, and what is indifferent. For them, the only intrinsic, unwavering good is virtue, the excellence of our character, expressed through wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Correspondingly, the only intrinsic bad is vice, the corruption of our character through folly, injustice, cowardice, and intemperance. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, status, pleasure, pain, life, death, falls into the category of indifference, adiaphora. This term, indifferent, can be initially misleading. It doesn't mean these things don't matter at all or that we should be apathetic towards them. The Stoics further divided indifference into preferred and dispreferred. Health is generally preferable to sickness, wealth to poverty, a good reputation to a bad one. It is natural and rational to prefer these things and to take reasonable actions to attain or maintain them. However, and this is the critical point, they are not essential for our happiness or our moral worth. Their value is instrumental and conditional, not intrinsic. They are preferred because they can sometimes facilitate virtuous action or make life more comfortable, but they do not, in themselves, constitute goodness. Consider money. Society bombards us with messages suggesting wealth equates to happiness and success. We internalize this judgment, assigning immense value to financial accumulation. Yet the Stoic asks, does having money automatically make someone a good person? Does it guarantee wisdom or inner peace? Clearly not. Wealth can be used virtuously, e.g. for charitable acts, supporting family, or viciously, e.g. exploiting others, excessive indulgence. It can bring comfort, but it can also bring anxiety about losing it, envy from others, and a focus on material possessions that distracts from developing one's character. The value isn't in the money itself, it's in how we judge it and how we use it. Our mind assigns it the power it holds over us. Similarly, consider reputation or the opinions of others. We often crave approval and fear criticism, granting immense power to what other people think. The Stoic recognizes that reputation is an external, largely outside our control. People's opinions are based on their own perceptions, biases, and limited understanding. While a good reputation is generally preferred, Basing one's self-worth or happiness on something so fickle and external is a recipe for anxiety and inauthenticity. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to be indifferent to fame and the fleeting opinions of others, focusing instead on acting rightly according to his own principles. The value we place on others' judgments is entirely assigned by us. We choose whether to let praise inflate our ego or criticism wound our spirit. The core Stoic practice here is the examination of our judgments, dogmata. When we feel distress about lacking something, like money or status, or having something, like illness or a bad reputation, the distress doesn't come from the thing itself, but from the value judgment we've attached to it. We've judged poverty or sickness as inherently bad, inherently destructive to our well-being. The Stoic challenges this judgment. Can one be poor and still be virtuous, courageous, and wise? Yes. Can one be ill and still face their situation with patience and dignity? Yes. Therefore, these external circumstances cannot be inherently bad. They are merely dispreferred indifference, challenging situations that provide opportunities to exercise virtue. This perspective is profoundly liberating. When you realize that value is assigned, not inherent, you stop being a slave to external circumstances and societal pressures. You gain the freedom to define what truly matters to you based on your own reasoned reflection. This typically leads back to the Stoic conclusion. What truly matters is the state of your own mind, your character, your integrity, your ability to act virtuously regardless of external fortune. This doesn't mean retreating from the world or ceasing to strive. A Stoic business person still works diligently, practicing temperance and justice. A Stoic parent still cares for their children, practicing justice and wisdom. A Stoic citizen participates in society, practicing justice. The difference lies in the motivation and the attachment. They strive for preferred indifference, like success in business or raising healthy children, not because these things are goods in themselves, but because striving for them provides a field for virtuous action. Crucially, they maintain emotional detachment from the outcome. If they succeed, they accept it without arrogance. If they fail, despite their best efforts, they accept it without despair, knowing their true worth lies in the quality of their effort and intention, not the external result. Living this principle involves a continuous process of introspection. Identify your attachments. What external things cause you the most anxiety, desire, or fear? Money, status, approval, health. Examine your judgments. Why do these things hold such power? What value judgments have you implicitly made about them? I need this promotion to be worthy. Getting sick would be unbearable. Challenge the judgments. Are these judgments true? Can you be virtuous and fulfilled without the promotion? Can you handle illness with resilience? Separate the external event from your internal interpretation. Realign your values. Consciously shift your focus from external indifference to internal virtue. Ask, what matters most for my character? How can I act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance right now, regardless of my circumstances? Practice detachment. Pursue preferred indifference with diligence but without desperate attachment. Accept outcomes with equanimity, focusing on the quality of your actions. By understanding that value is primarily a product of our own minds, we reclaim enormous power. We stop chasing shadows and illusions defined by others and begin cultivating the genuine, enduring value found within, the strength and clarity of a virtuous character. This shift allows us to navigate the world with greater freedom, resilience, and purpose, finding contentment not in what we possess or achieve externally, but in who we choose to be internally. Number 4. A weak mind sees enemies everywhere. The human ego is a delicate, complex entity. In its unrefined state, it often functions like an exposed nerve, hypersensitive to the slightest perceived jostle or pressure from the outside world. This is the state of the fragile mind, the mind that hasn't been fortified by self-awareness and rational reflection. Such a mind operates from a place of insecurity and defensiveness, constantly scanning its environment for threats to its perceived status or self-worth. It hears criticism where only neutral observation was intended. It interprets questions as challenges, disagreement as disrespect, and silence as disapproval. For the fragile mind, the world can easily feel like a hostile landscape populated by potential enemies, critics, and underminers. This hypersensitivity often stems from an unstable sense of self-worth, one that relies heavily on external validation. If your value feels contingent on constant approval, positive feedback, and agreement from others, then any deviation from this becomes deeply threatening. A casual remark about a mistake isn't just feedback. It's perceived as a judgment on your entire competence. A differing opinion isn't just a different perspective. It's felt as a personal rejection. The fragile mind lacks a solid inner core of self-acceptance and instead projects its insecurities outward, interpreting neutral or even well-intentioned interactions through the distorted lens of its own vulnerability. It takes offense easily because it is fundamentally seeking offense as confirmation of its underlying fears about inadequacy. The consequences of this mindset are significant. It leads to strained relationships as others learn to walk on eggshells, fearing an overreaction. It stifles learning and growth because valuable feedback is dismissed as an attack rather than absorbed as useful information. It creates a state of chronic stress and vigilance as the mind is constantly on guard against perceived slights. It fosters resentment and isolation, pushing people away through defensiveness and suspicion. The world, filtered through this lens, genuinely becomes a more adversarial place, not because it inherently is, but because the fragile mind selectively perceives and reacts in ways that generate conflict and misunderstanding. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this state: the cultivation of a strong, resilient mind. A strong mind, in the Stoic sense, isn't one that is callous or emotionless. It's a mind grounded in reason, self-awareness, and a stable sense of intrinsic worth derived from virtue, not external opinions. This strength allows it to engage with the world differently. Instead of seeking validation or fearing criticism, it seeks truth and growth. When faced with feedback, even harsh feedback, the strong mind doesn't immediately recoil in defense. Its first instinct isn't, "How dare they?" but rather, "Is there any truth in this?" It possesses the humility and security to consider that it might be wrong, that there might be something valuable to learn, even if the delivery is imperfect. It can separate the message from the messenger and the tone. Even if someone is genuinely being critical or unkind, the strong mind asks, setting aside their intention, "Is there a kernel of accuracy here that I can use to improve myself?" This transforms potential attacks into unsolicited consultations. This strength isn't about being untouched or invulnerable. Painful words can still sting. Unfair accusations can still rankle. These are natural initial impressions, propatheiai. The difference lies in the assent. The fragile mind immediately assents to the feeling of being attacked, letting it spiral into anger, resentment, or self-pity. The strong Stoic mind acknowledges the initial sting, but pauses before assenting. It examines the judgment. This person's criticism means I am worthless, or their anger is a true reflection of my character. It recognizes these judgments as false, separating the external event, the criticism, from the internal value-laden interpretation. It chooses not to grant assent to the destructive judgment. Marcus Aurelius provided himself with practical techniques for dealing with difficult people, reminding himself that others often act out of ignorance or flawed judgment, not necessarily malice directed specifically at him. He encouraged cultivating empathy, trying to understand the other person's perspective, however flawed. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean depersonalizing it. Their actions are a reflection of their character and their judgments, not necessarily an accurate assessment of yours. This perspective allows for a more measured, rational response rather than an immediate, ego-driven counterattack. Cultivating this mental strength involves several practices. Building intrinsic self-worth. Ground your sense of value in your character, your principles, and your efforts to live virtuously, not in external achievements or opinions. Practicing cognitive distancing. Learn to observe your thoughts and feelings about criticism or perceived slights without immediately identifying with them. Recognize, I am having the thought that this is unfair, rather than this is unfair and an attack on me. Seeking truth over validation. Shift your goal in interactions from being right or being liked to understanding reality and improving yourself. Welcome constructive disagreement as an opportunity to refine your views. Developing empathy. Try to understand why others might say or do things that feel critical. Consider their perspective, pressures, or potential misunderstandings. Focusing on your response. Remember the dichotomy of control. You cannot control others' opinions or words, but you can control your interpretation and response. Choose responses aligned with reason and virtue, patience, understanding, assertiveness when necessary, rather than defensiveness or anger. Reframing, feedback. Consciously view all feedback, even poorly delivered feedback, as potential data. Ask, regardless of how it was said, what can I learn from this? Strength, in the Stoic view, isn't found in building impenetrable walls around the ego. It's found in developing a flexible, rational, and secure inner core that doesn't need those walls. It's the strength to remain open, to learn and to grow, even when faced with potential negativity. By choosing to see feedback as a tool, not an attack, and by grounding our worth internally, we dismantle the perception of enemies everywhere. We replace defensiveness with curiosity, fragility with resilience, and begin to navigate the social world not as a battlefield for the ego, but as a training ground for wisdom and character. Number 5, your mind can be a sanctuary or a cage. The human mind possesses an extraordinary capacity. It can analyze complex problems, imagine distant futures, create breathtaking works of art, and forge deep emotional connections. It holds our memories, shapes our perceptions, and directs our actions. This inner world, the realm of our thoughts and beliefs, can be our greatest asset, a source of peace, resilience, and wisdom. It can be a sanctuary, a quiet inner citadel where we can retreat, reflect, and find solace regardless of external turmoil. Yet this same powerful instrument, if left untended or allowed to run rampant with negativity, can become the most confining of prisons. Your thoughts can weave the very bars that cage you. Consider the nature of negative beliefs, particularly those directed at ourselves. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'll never be able to change, I always mess things up, nobody truly likes me, or things will never get better, can take root in the mind. Often, they begin subtly, perhaps triggered by a specific failure, criticism, or comparison. But if repeatedly entertained and believed, they cease to be mere fleeting thoughts. They become ingrained patterns, core beliefs that shape our perception of ourselves and the world. These beliefs whisper insidious lies, casting a shadow over our potential and limiting our possibilities. When these negative thought patterns dominate, the mind transforms into a cage. Every experience is filtered through the bars of these limiting beliefs. A success is dismissed as luck, reinforcing the not good enough narrative. A mistake is seized upon as definitive proof of inherent inadequacy. See, I always mess up. Opportunities for change are ignored because the belief "I'll never change" dictates inaction. Potential friendships are sabotaged by the suspicion born of "nobody truly likes me." The mind becomes an echo chamber, endlessly repeating and reinforcing its own negative programming. It generates anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of hopelessness. You become trapped, not by external circumstances, but by the invisible yet incredibly strong bars of your own thinking. This internal prison can feel inescapable, dictating your emotions, choices, and ultimately, the trajectory of your life. But here lies the profound and liberating truth offered by Stoicism and echoed in many contemplative traditions. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. This distinction is crucial. Thoughts arise within your consciousness. They are events in the mind, not the essence of the mind or the self. Just as you are not the clouds passing through the sky, you are not the thoughts passing through your awareness. You are the sky, the awareness itself, the silent witness capable of observing the thoughts without being swept away by them or defining yourself by them. Recognizing this separation, this cognitive distancing, is the key to unlocking the seek. When a negative thought like "I'm not good enough" arises, instead of automatically accepting it as truth and identifying with it, you can learn to simply notice it. There is the thought, "I'm not good enough" again. By observing it as a mental event, rather than an objective fact about reality or your identity, you strip it of much of its power. You see it for what it is, a pattern, perhaps a learned habit of thinking, but not an immutable truth. Reclaiming your mind from this cage and transforming it into a sanctuary involves active, ongoing effort. It's a process of mental cultivation, mindfulness, and awareness. The first step is simply becoming aware of your thought patterns. Practices like meditation train the mind to observe thoughts non-judgmentally as they arise and pass away. Journaling can also help identify recurring negative loops. Questioning and challenging. Once aware of negative thoughts, actively question their validity. Is the thought, "I always mess things up," literally true? Can you recall times you succeeded? Is "nobody truly likes me" based on evidence or on fear and assumption? Apply logic and reason to challenge the sweeping generalizations and cognitive distortions often present in negative thinking. This is akin to Epictetus's advice to challenge disturbing impressions and ask if they pertain to things within our control, our judgments, or outside it, external opinions, past events. Cognitive reframing. Consciously replace negative, limiting thoughts with more realistic, constructive, and compassionate ones. Instead of "I can't handle this," try "This is challenging, but I can take steps to manage it," or "I can draw on my inner resources, courage, patience to face this." Focus on effort and growth rather than fixed traits. Directing attention. You choose where to focus your mental energy. Starve the negative patterns by refusing to dwell on them endlessly. Rumination. Instead, consciously direct your attention toward problem-solving, virtuous action, gratitude, or engagement in meaningful activities. Feed the thoughts that build your sanctuary, not your cage. Acceptance of thoughts, not content. Sometimes negative thoughts are persistent. Trying to forcefully suppress them can backfire. Instead, practice accepting their presence without believing their content. Acknowledge the thought, "Okay, my mind is generating fear right now," without letting it dictate your actions or define your reality. Building a mental sanctuary isn't about creating a fantasy world devoid of problems. It's about cultivating an inner space characterized by clarity, rationality, resilience, and self-compassion. It's a space where you can process difficulties without being overwhelmed, where you can observe your thoughts without being imprisoned by them, and where you can access your inner resources of wisdom and courage. This sanctuary provides stability amidst external chaos. It allows you to maintain your equilibrium when faced with challenges. to learn from setbacks without internalizing failure, and to engage with the world from a place of strength and freedom. The power to shape this inner world lies entirely within you. Your mind, right now, holds the potential to be either your most confining prison or your most liberating refuge. By embracing the Stoic understanding that you are the observer, not the thoughts, and by diligently practicing the techniques of mental cultivation, you can dismantle the bars of negative belief and build, thought by thought, a resilient and peaceful inner sanctuary. Reclaim your mind and you reclaim your freedom. Number 6. Emotion rules the untrained mind. Human experience is intrinsically emotional. We feel joy, anger, fear, love, sadness, jealousy, excitement, a rich tapestry of affective states that color our perceptions and motivate our actions. In an untrained mind, one lacking self-awareness and rational discipline, these emotions often run wild. Like untamed horses, they pull the chariot of the self in chaotic and often destructive directions. A flash of anger erupts into harsh words and broken relationships. A wave of fear paralyzes us from pursuing goals or facing challenges. A pang of jealousy breeds suspicion and resentment. Without conscious governance, emotions can usurp control, dictating our behavior and turning us into reactive beings tossed about by internal storms. A common misconception, particularly regarding Stoicism, is that the goal is to eliminate emotion altogether, to become a cold, unfeeling automaton. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. Stoicism does not advocate for the suppression or eradication of feelings. The Stoics were astute observers of human psychology. They recognized emotions as natural, inevitable parts of our makeup. Their aim was not emotionlessness, apathy in the modern sense, but rather apatheia, a state of freedom from disturbing passions achieved through reason and understanding. Emotions, in the Stoic view, are not the enemy. They are powerful signals that require interpretation and rational management. The problem arises not from feeling emotion, but from being ruled by it. The untrained mind often conflates feeling an emotion with needing to act immediately and unthinkingly upon it. It experiences the initial flush of anger and immediately lashes out. It feels fear and instantly retreats. It experiences desire and impulsively pursues gratification regardless of consequences. This reactive mode bypasses our rational faculty, our hegemonicon, leading to actions we often later regret, actions misaligned with our values and long-term well-being. Stoicism teaches that emotions typically arise from our judgments about events. It's not the event itself that directly causes the full-blown emotion, but our interpretation or assessment of it. As Epictetus famously stated, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. You don't get angry simply because someone insulted you. You get angry because you judge the insult as a significant harm, a diminution of your worth, an injustice that demands retribution. You don't feel overwhelming fear simply because you have to give a presentation. You feel fear because you judge potential failure as catastrophic, public disapproval as unbearable. The Stoics differentiated between initial, involuntary physiological reactions or pre-emotions, propatheiai, like startling at a loud noise, blushing when embarrassed, or the initial pang of grief upon hearing bad news, and full-blown passions, path. These pre-emotions are natural and outside our immediate control. The crucial step happens next. Do we assent to the judgment that accompanies this initial reaction? Do we agree with the interpretation that this event is truly terrible, truly threatening, truly unfair in a way that justifies outrage or despair? It is this assent, this confirmation by our rational mind, that transforms a fleeting impression into a powerful potentially destructive passion. Training the mind, therefore, involves interrupting this automatic chain reaction. It requires cultivating the ability to pause between the initial feeling, the signal, and the potential reaction. This pause creates a space for reflection, allowing our rational faculty to engage. In this space, we can acknowledge the emotion, recognize the feeling without judgment. I am feeling angry right now. I notice fear arising. Naming the emotion helps to create distance and reduces its overwhelming quality. Identify the underlying. Judgment. Ask yourself, what belief or interpretation is fueling this emotion? What am I telling myself about this situation? E.g., this traffic jam is ruining my day. Their comment means they don't respect me. Losing this opportunity is a disaster. Examine the judgment rationally. Is this judgment accurate? Is it helpful? Is the situation truly as catastrophic as my initial feeling suggests? Is this event within my control or outside it? Apply Stoic principles. Is this a preferred, indifferent I'm overly attached to? Am I mistaking an external event for an intrinsic harm to my character? Choose a considered response. Based on this rational examination, choose a response that aligns with your values and long-term goals, rather than simply reacting based on the raw emotion. This might mean responding calmly instead of angrily, proceeding with courage despite fear, or practicing patience instead of frustration. This process transforms emotions from unruly masters into informative messengers. Anger might signal a perceived injustice. The trained mind examines if the injustice is real and, if so, responds with reasoned action, justice, rather than blind rage. Fear might signal potential danger. The trained mind assesses the risk rationally and responds with appropriate caution, wisdom and courage rather than paralysis. Grief signals loss. The trained mind allows space for sadness but focuses on finding resilience and continuing to live virtuously. Emotional strength, from a Stoic perspective, is not the absence of feeling, but the ability to feel without being controlled. It's the capacity to experience the full spectrum of human emotion while retaining command of one's rational faculty. It is the discipline to pause, reflect, and choose a response guided by wisdom and virtue, rather than being swept away by impulse. This training requires consistent practice, mindfulness, self-reflection, challenging automatic thoughts, consciously choosing virtuous responses even when it feels difficult. This disciplined approach to emotion is perhaps Stoicism's greatest gift. It offers a path away from the chaos and suffering caused by unchecked passions, leading toward inner peace, ataraxia, and resilience. By learning to work with our emotions, understanding their roots in our judgments, and interposing reason between feeling and action, we move from being puppets of our internal states to becoming rational governors of our own minds. We learn to navigate the inevitable emotional currents of life with greater stability, wisdom, and freedom. Number 7, you become what you think about. The landscape of your life, its texture, its challenges, its joys, its limitations, is not merely shaped by external events or random chance. It is to a profound degree sculpted by the persistent currents of your own thoughts. What you consistently feed your mind, what you allow to occupy your attention, what beliefs you habitually entertain about yourself and the world. These internal states inexorably manifest in your external reality. You become, quite literally, what you think about most. This principle, echoed across various philosophical and psychological traditions, finds a powerful resonance within Stoicism. The Stoics understood that our internal world of judgments, beliefs, and focus, prosos, attention, is the primary determinant of our experience and character. If your mind constantly replays narratives of victimhood, limitation, and lack, I'm stuck in this dead-end job, I'm just unlucky in relationships. I'm not smart, talented, disciplined enough to succeed. These thoughts don't just remain abstract ideas. They actively shape your perception, guide your choices, and ultimately construct the reality you inhabit. Consider the person who constantly thinks they are stuck. This thought filters their perception of opportunities. They may overlook possibilities for growth or change simply because they don't fit the stuck narrative. It influences their actions. Why bother applying for a better job or learning a new skill if you're convinced you're inherently stuck? It affects their demeanor. A sense of resignation or bitterness can repel potential helpers or opportunities. Over time, the belief of being stuck creates the reality of being stuck, not necessarily because external circumstances are insurmountable, but because the internal mindset prevents effective engagement with them. Similarly, dwelling on perceived unluckiness primes the mind to notice and magnify negative events while dismissing positive ones as flukes. Believing you aren't enough leads to avoiding challenges, shying away from risks, and interpreting neutral feedback as confirmation of inadequacy. These thought patterns become self-fulfilling prophecies. They aren't just passive reflections of reality. They are active agents in its creation. Your thoughts direct your focus. Your focus influences your emotions drive your actions, and your actions create your results, which then seem to confirm your original thoughts, completing a powerful feedback loop. But this principle works just as powerfully in the positive direction. If you consciously choose to shift your focus, to cultivate thoughts centered on growth, courage, purpose, and resilience, your experienced reality begins to transform. This isn't about naive positive thinking or denying challenges. It's about adopting a fundamentally different orientation of the mind. Imagine consciously cultivating thoughts of growth. Instead of, "I can't do this," the thought becomes, "How can I learn to do this?" Or, "What resources do I need to tackle this challenge?" This shifts the mind from a state of limitation to one of possibility and proactivity. Focusing on courage doesn't mean eliminating fear, but thinking, "This is scary, but acting in accordance with my values is more important." Or, "What is one small, courageous step I can take right now?" This directs energy towards action, despite fear. Thinking about purpose involves asking, "What truly matters to me? And how can I contribute or act virtuously in this situation?" This provides direction and meaning, even amidst difficulty. When you consistently feed your mind these kinds of thoughts aligned with Stoic virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, several things happen. Your perception changes. You start seeing opportunities for learning in setbacks, possibilities for connection in interactions, and avenues for virtuous action everywhere. Your emotional state shifts. While challenges remain, the dominant tone moves from anxiety and helplessness towards determination and equanimity. Your actions change. You become more proactive, more resilient, more willing to engage constructively with life's difficulties. Consequently, your results change, leading to personal growth, stronger relationships, and a greater sense of fulfillment, which in turn reinforces the positive thought patterns. Guarding your thoughts, therefore, becomes one of the most critical disciplines for a fulfilling life. This involves awareness, paying close attention to your habitual thought patterns, especially your internal self-talk. What narratives are you constantly replaying? Discernment, evaluating these thoughts based on reason and evidence. Are they true? Are they helpful? Do they align with the person you aspire to be? Challenge and discard thoughts rooted in irrationality, fear, or limiting beliefs. Conscious choice, actively choosing the thoughts you wish to cultivate. This might involve affirmations grounded in reality and virtue, visualizations of constructive responses, or deliberately focusing on gratitude and solutions. Mental diet, being mindful of the information and influences you allow into your mind. Just as nutritious food builds a healthy body, constructive ideas, inspiring stories, and wise perspectives build a healthy mind. Limit exposure to excessive negativity, cynicism, or triviality. Practice. Redirecting your thoughts is a skill that requires consistent practice, like strengthening a muscle. When negative or unhelpful thoughts arise, gently but firmly guide your attention back to more constructive and virtuous lines of thinking. The Stoics emphasize the power of our hegemonikon, our ruling faculty, to choose its ascents and direct its focus. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, "The universe is transformation. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This isn't a call to delusion, but a recognition of the profound creative power residing within our own minds. We cannot always control external events, but we hold immense influence over the internal narratives we construct about those events and about ourselves. By diligently guarding your thoughts, by consciously choosing to focus on what is constructive, virtuous, and within your control, you cease to be a passive recipient of circumstance and become an active architect of your experience. You begin to build your reality from the inside out, aligning your inner world with principles of reason and virtue, and watching as your outer world gradually transforms in response. Your thoughts are the seeds of your actions, your character, and ultimately, your destiny. Plant them wisely. Number 8. Simplicity brings peace. In the clamor of modern existence, the mind often feels like a perpetually buzzing, overcrowded marketplace. It flits from worry to rumination, from analyzing past mistakes to anxiously anticipating future problems. It juggles endless streams of information, opinions, desires, and obligations. This state of constant mental activity, this internal noise, is something many of us accept as normal, even necessary. Yet Stoicism suggests that this very complexity, this overactivity of the untrained mind, is a primary source of our suffering. The mind, left to its own devices, has a tendency to invent problems where none exist, to magnify minor issues into major crises, and to generate anxiety through ceaseless, often unproductive churning. In contrast, the Stoics championed the profound peace, ataraxia, that arises from cultivating a simpler, more focused mind. The overactive mind is a master of self-disturbance. It replays conversations, dissecting every word for hidden meanings or potential slights. It doubts decisions already made, second-guessing choices and fueling regret. It worries obsessively about hypothetical future scenarios, most of which will never materialize. It compares constantly our achievements, possessions, and lives against those of others, often leading to envy or feelings of inadequacy. It gets lost in intricate analyses of situations that might require only straightforward action or even acceptance. This mental entanglement creates a state of chronic unease, friction, and exhaustion. Like a machine running too many programs, simultaneously, the overtaxed mind overheats and malfunctions, unable to find clarity or rest. Stoicism proposes a radical solution: deliberate simplification. This isn't necessarily about adopting an austere external lifestyle, though reducing unnecessary possessions and commitments can certainly help quiet the mind, but primarily about simplifying our internal landscape. It's about letting go of what doesn't truly matter, silencing the mental noise, and focusing our attention on the essentials. What does this internal simplification look like in practice? Reducing desires. The Stoics recognize that much of our mental turmoil stems from excessive desires for things outside our control: wealth, status, pleasure, the approval of others. The more things we crave, the more potential sources of frustration, anxiety, and disappointment we introduce into our lives. Simplifying means consciously examining our desires and letting go of those that are unnecessary, harmful, or misaligned. with our core values, especially virtue. It involves cultivating contentment with what we have, rather than perpetually chasing more. As Seneca noted, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Reducing desires reduces the mental energy spent craving, worrying, and comparing. Focusing on the present. The overactive mind constantly dwells in the past, regret, resentment, or the future, anxiety, worry. Both are illusions. The past is gone. The future is yet to arrive. Stoicism, much like mindfulness practices, encourages bringing our attention firmly into the present moment, the only time we actually live and can exert our agency. By focusing on the task at hand, the current conversation, or simply our breath, we interrupt the cycles of rumination and worry. Peace is found not in escaping the present, but in fully inhabiting it, clarifying values and priorities. A cluttered mind often reflects cluttered priorities. When we aren't clear about what truly matters, for the Stoic this is primarily living virtuously, our mental energy gets scattered across countless trivial concerns. Simplifying involves identifying our core values and using them as a filter. Does this worry, this desire, this commitment align with my pursuit of wisdom, justice, courage, or temperance? If not, perhaps it can be let go. Focusing on a few essential principles brings clarity and direction, cutting through the mental fog. Accepting what cannot be changed. A significant amount of mental noise comes from resisting reality. Wishing things were different, arguing with what is. Simplifying involves practicing acceptance of things outside our control, past events, other people's actions, unavoidable hardships, as outlined in the dichotomy of control. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but rather conserving mental energy by not fighting unwinnable battles against reality itself. Acceptance frees the mind to focus on what can be influenced, our own responses. Letting go of judgments. As discussed earlier, our emotional disturbances often stem from our value judgments about external events, seeing them as good or bad. The overactive mind is constantly layering these judgments onto reality. Simplifying involves striving for more objective perception, describing events factually without immediately attaching strong positive or negative labels. This reduces the emotional charge and the subsequent mental churning. Practicing mental silence. Just as physical rest is necessary, mental rest is crucial. Practices like meditation, spending time in nature, or simply sitting quietly without distraction can help calm the internal chatter. Learning to be comfortable with silence, both external and internal, allows the mind to settle and find peace. Simplicity, in the Stoic sense, is not about ignorance or lack of engagement. It is about focus. It's about intentionally clearing away the mental clutter, the non-essential worries, the unproductive analyses, the excessive desires, the pointless ruminations, to create space for what truly matters: rational thought, virtuous action, and inner tranquility. A simpler mind suffers less because it is less entangled in self-generated complexities. It sees situations more clearly because it isn't clouded by excessive emotional judgments or anxieties. It acts more effectively because its energy isn't dissipated by internal noise. In a world that constantly bombards us with information and encourages complexity, the path to peace often lies in the opposite direction. It lies in the conscious choice to simplify our inner world, to let go of the burdens we don't need to carry, to silence the noise, and to focus our precious mental resources on living well in the present moment. In this deliberate simplicity, we discover a profound and enduring sense of peace. Number 9. Even misfortune can hold good. Life in its unvarnished reality includes hardship. Setbacks occur, losses wound us, failures knock us down. We face illness, disappointment, betrayal, grief, and the thousand other natural shocks that flesh is heir to. Stoicism is not a philosophy of naive optimism. It does not wear rose-tinted glasses or pretend that pain and suffering do not exist. It fully acknowledges the difficult, often brutal aspects of the human condition. Yet woven into the core of Stoic thought is a transformative perspective. Even within misfortune, even in the midst of adversity, there lies the potential for good. Not necessarily good in the sense of pleasure or ease, but good in the sense of opportunity. The opportunity to exercise virtue, to grow wiser, stronger, and more resilient. This perspective challenges our conventional understanding of good and bad. Typically, we label events as bad if they cause us pain, discomfort, or loss. A job loss is bad. An illness is bad. A failure is bad. The Stoics argued that these external events are in themselves indifferents, albeit often dispreferred ones. They are not intrinsically bad because they do not corrupt our character, our inner core of virtue, which is the only true locus of good and evil. The real significance of misfortune lies not in the event itself, but in how we respond to it. Adversity, from this viewpoint, is not merely something to be endured. It is a crucial testing ground, a forge upon which character is shaped and strengthened. Consider some common forms of misfortune. Failure. Failing at an important project, a business venture, or an academic pursuit can feel devastating. The untrained mind might see it purely as evidence of inadequacy, leading to shame and discouragement. The Stoic lens, however, invites a different interpretation. Failure provides invaluable data. It reveals weaknesses in our approach, gaps in our knowledge, or flaws in our planning. It teaches humility and the limits of our control. Most importantly, it offers a chance to practice resilience, the courage to get back up, learn from the mistakes, and try again with improved understanding. The good in failure is the lesson learned and the strength gained through perseverance. Loss. Losing a loved one, a cherished possession, or a valued relationship brings profound grief and sadness. Stoicism does not deny this pain. However, it encourages us to focus on what remains within our control. Our response. Loss can teach us the preciousness of what we have and the importance of cherishing present moments. It can foster empathy and compassion for others who suffer. Facing grief with dignity and courage while allowing ourselves to feel the pain without being destroyed by it builds inner fortitude. The good is found in the deepened appreciation for life, the growth in compassion, and the exercise of courage in the face of sorrow. Setbacks and obstacles. Unexpected challenges that derail our plans. An illness interrupting work. A financial setback. A societal crisis are often met with frustration and despair. The Stoic approach, often summarized by the phrase, "the obstacle is the way," popularized by Ryan Holiday, drawing on Marcus Aurelius, views these impediments not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to practice specific virtues. An illness requires patience and temperance. A financial setback demands resourcefulness and wisdom. A societal crisis calls for justice and courage. The obstacle itself becomes the raw material for virtuous action. The good is discovered in creatively navigating the challenge and strengthening the corresponding virtues. This ability to find good within misfortune is closely linked to the Stoic concept of amor fati, the love of fate. This doesn't mean passively enjoying suffering. It means actively embracing whatever happens, understanding that even the most difficult circumstances can serve a purpose in our development if we choose to engage with them virtuously. It's an acceptance of reality in its entirety, coupled with the conviction that we possess the inner resources, our reason, our capacity for virtue, to transform any situation into an opportunity for demonstrating human excellence. Seneca in On Providence argued that God, or nature, logos, tests good people with hardship. much like a trainer pushes an athlete not out of malice, but to strengthen them and reveal their capabilities. A clear, well-trained mind doesn't just passively survive misfortune, it actively uses it. It mines adversity for meaning and growth. This requires acceptance of reality, acknowledging the hardship without denial or excessive resistance. Fighting what has already happened is futile. Focus on response, shifting attention from "why did this happen to me?" often unanswerable and unproductive, to "given that this has happened, how can I respond virtuously?" Reframing, consciously looking for the potential lessons or opportunities for growth embedded within the difficulty. Asking, "What can I learn here? What virtue can I practice? How can this make me stronger or wiser?" Exercising. Virtue. Intentionally choosing to act with courage in the face of fear, patience in the face of frustration, justice in the face of unfairness, and wisdom in the face of confusion. Misfortune provides the context for these virtues to shine. Finding meaning. Integrating the experience into a larger narrative of personal growth and resilience. Seeing how overcoming this challenge contributes to becoming a better, stronger human being. This Stoic perspective does not trivialize pain or invalidate suffering. It honors the difficulty while simultaneously empowering the individual. It asserts that while we cannot always control the cards we are dealt, we absolutely control how we play the hand. By cultivating a mind that seeks lessons in loss, opportunities, in obstacles and strength in struggle, we transform our relationship with adversity. Misfortune ceases to be merely a source of suffering and becomes paradoxically a potential catalyst for our greatest growth, deepening our character and ultimately revealing the profound resilience of the human spirit. A clear mind doesn't just endure the storm, it learns to harness its winds. So ask yourself, are you letting your mind run wild? Or are you learning to guide it? Because when you believe in the power of your mind, when you train it, focus it, and protect it, you don't just survive life, you shape it. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a mental reset today. Drop a comment. Which mental shift are you working on right now? Until next time, think clearly, live wisely, and remember, your mind is your greatest tool. Use it well.